Welcome, everyone, to today's episode of Move, Crush, Count. We are coming to you live on LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook. I am your host, Scott Joseph. Uh, Quick shout out to our sponsor, J&L Marketing, the digital and direct marketing agency that helps you outsmart the competition so you don't have to outspend them. Visit jnlmarketing.com today so you can learn how their innovative approach will help you move the crowd, crush the competition, and count the money. Very excited. Got a great guest today. He's a United States Marine. He's an entrepreneur, an investor. He's the author of 9 Secrets for a Successful Life and Business. He's built and co-founded several multi-million-dollar companies, and he knows what it takes to achieve success in both life and business. So today he's going to be with us. He's going to be sharing some valuable insights on how to live a life to the fullest and reach your goals. Everybody, please welcome Edwin Carrion. Welcome.
Good morning, Scott. Thank you for having me here today. And to everyone listening, whatever part of the world you're in, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to the show, Move, Crush, and Count.
That's right. And let me tell you something. I love your LinkedIn profile. It says right next to his name, God made millionaire. That's the best description I've ever seen on LinkedIn.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And, uh, and the reason I say that is because a lot of people proclaim themselves to be self-made, right? And
That's right.
I realize that no one is self-made. We always need somebody to help us get to the top. We always need somebody to help us live an awesome life. And to me, I have to give credit to my God. So that's why.
Whatever we've achieved is only because we're allowed to achieve it.
Yes.
So 100%. All right. So let's dive right in. Tell us a little bit about your background, how you became successful in business.
Background, was born in Ecuador, raised by a single mom, came to the United States when I was 12 years old, joined the United States Marine, had an awesome time in the military, left the Marine Corps at 22 years old, and I started my business entrepreneurship at that time. My first major company, which is real estate development, made millions of dollars, had a lot of time, but I was working so much nonstop that in 2007, the real estate bubble burst
Yeah.
and I went bankrupt. And
Oh, wow.
that moment, I realized that I need to change my life. I need to make sure that I don't work as much as I did because I had nothing to show for. And that's the moment that my life changed and I started becoming successful, not only financially, but in all areas of my life because I had a real purpose right after that. And it
Well,
was
let's
to live life to the fullest.
Yeah, and I want to get later in the show. I want to talk a little bit about work-life balance because that's something that's always thrown out there, and we'll get into that in detail. But
Yes.
for you, like, how do you define life to the fullest?
Um, my life to the fullest is that living the life that you have no regrets. Thinking back, if you're about to die today, if you look back, it's like instead of looking at yourself saying, I should have done that, I could have done that, I would have done that. It's like, my God, I had such an amazing life. There's no regrets. I did everything that I wanted to do. I accomplished all my childhood dreams. And it goes back to doing all those little things that you always wanted to do. That because life goes along the way, because you get married, because you have kids, because you have responsibilities, because you have work, you put them at the side and you never take care of those things that you always dreamed of. So to me, it's okay, let's focus on those things first, and then everything else is going to come along. So that's how you live a life to the fullest.
So you've got your book, 9 Secrets for Successful Life and Business, where you share a lot of strategies for success.
Yes.
Can you give us some sneak peek of that? Like, what are some of those strategies?
Oh, they're simple, basic strategies, and the reason I came up with this book is because when I started my last year, when I really started into the public speaking scene, the really getting into the mentoring side, my mentor told me, I need you to write a book. I need you to write a guide where you could teach people some basic things. And then the first thing that came to my head is like, okay, you know what? Let me teach everybody what I love to teach is how to be successful in life and business, right? Because there's a balance on that. And it starts with basic principles that a bunch of successful friends, a lot of millionaire friends of mine have use. And I use that and I engrave that into the people that I mentor to live by those rules, right? By those guides, by those secrets that I call it. And they're very simple. The first one is faith. Have faith in God, have faith in yourself. If you don't believe in yourself, you're never going to accomplish anything. If you don't believe in God, you're always going to be alone because you have nobody to turn to when the times are tough, especially in life and entrepreneurship, right? You know that when I went bankrupt, those were some really tough times, and I could have turned to anybody, but I had God to turn to and talk to Him and guide me through that process, and that's why I was able to come out of that real quick. So faith is number one. The second one I always talk, and I'm not going to go through all nine of them because I know we have a little bit of time together. But the second one I'll share right now today is never have a plan B. A lot of young entrepreneurs, a lot of people that get into business, they always start with the mentality that if this doesn't work out, I'm going to do this. If this doesn't work out, I'm going to do that. And what tends to happen is that you always end up doing your plan B instead of following your plan A because you're always looking for what am I going to do? What am I going to do next? What am I going to do next? And your body and your heart and your mind tends to follow that next path instead of that straight path, which is your plan A, meaning I'm going to do this, I'm going to accomplish this, I'm going to commit to this, and I'm going to execute this.
Let me tell you something. You and I are 100% in line on, first off, both of those. But it's funny when you said never have a plan B. There was about 2 or 3 years ago, I put out a social post and I said the most successful people never have a plan B, right? For the same reasons you just said. It's like
Yeah,
when you have that safety net, it's like it's almost like you're okay with not succeeding with plan A, right? You have a
exactly.
default. I caught so much crap uh, from people. And I love it. I don't care because usually the ones that are don't agree with it aren't that successful. So it's maybe maybe they fell back to plan B. That was the reason they're not. I don't
Right.
know. Uh, I mean, to me that it's a mindset difference uh, between the ultra successful and mediocre.
Exactly, and that's all it is. And one example that I put is that I'm being fortunate enough to being successful in multiple industries, right? And when I tell people, it's like I could teach you everything about industry A, industry B, industry C, industry D, and I could give you all the tools for success. But if you don't have your mindset right, if you don't have that millionaire mindset, you're never going to be successful because you
That's
need
right.
to have that mindset. Like you need to be able to spend uh, $1 million in advertising if you want to take your company to over 10 millions of revenues. You need to be able to invest in yourself on a great mentor. You need to be able to not think about $100,000 being a lot of money. You have to look at $100,000 like it's just $100,000. It's just $1 million. So when you start thinking that way, your mindset is bigger than what the money. You don't have the value to that money, that attachment to that number per se.
Michael Porro, frequent guest of the show, good friend. He says it very well. He's always simplifies and articulates everything so perfectly. You either plan to succeed or you plan to fail. So if you got that plan B, it's almost like you're planning to fail. Uh,
Yes.
yeah. So 100%. Hey, where are you located?
I'm today, as of right now, I'm in
Yeah. Like
sunny Miami, Florida. That's where I'm coming to you from.
I'm going to be there. I'm going to be joining you there within the next 5 years. I got to get my daughter through high school.
Oh, nice, nice. See, that's where
So
we do
I'll be,
homeschool, so we're not stuck.
well, I've got another one. I've got another younger daughter, and that's exactly going to be the plan for her. She'll be homeschooled so we can do what we want to do as well. So,
Yes.
man, you and I got a lot of things in common, my friend.
You see? Small world. I always say we're all interconnected, right? We're all interconnected in one way or another.
So you've had to enjoy the real estate market down in Florida here the last few years.
Yes. Now,
It's
the
been
last
good.
year, the last 10 years, I
Yeah.
mean, I could say the last 23 years, I got to enjoy it. Right? I got to enjoy it. I got to savor it. I got to cry about it. Uh,
Yeah.
so it's been an up and down, and that's entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship is a huge roller coaster, right? But it's a fun roller coaster if you know how to ride it, and if you learn how to ride that roller coaster.
So what kind of real estate are you in? Is it more commercial? Is it residential?
No, I've been involved for 23 years into residential real estate development. That's all I do. I
Okay.
don't do fix and flips. I don't do wholesaling. It's real estate development.
Nice. All right. So what keeps you motivated and focused on your goals?
What keeps me motivated? I don't know if it's so much motivation. It's mostly like what keeps me going, right? And it's the consistency to always continue improving myself, always uh, having that clear vision of what each one of my businesses mean to me. And I think that has been the best one that I just discovered a couple of years ago, which it was that my transportation company is my cash flow business. So it's the business that continuously gives me cash flow, right? So once we have cash flow, there's so much money that we could take it because it gets to a point that we could have anything that we want, right? As much as we want. And of course, there's always bigger things that we want and everything else. So the second thing is like, okay, with that money, what do? I need to have a future. So I need to continue creating my wealth. So my real estate development company, my business, that's my wealth creation vehicle. And then I go into my business and consulting and all of this. And is that what does that create for me? That creates my give back to community, give back to people because I'm able to leave a legacy by teaching other people how to become successful. And then from that, it becomes myself investing with the people that I mentor, putting my own capital with them into their businesses, into their real estate projects. And that creates passive income. And that passive income is so amazing because now I'm not only helping other entrepreneurs become successful, but I'm also creating passive income for myself. So, as a motivation tool, it's more like helping other people become successful, being able to live my life to the fullest, to enjoy my life, to have freedom to do anything that I want to do. Just like this year, we're moving to South America to live there for 2 years
Oh,
because we
nice.
got to
What
the
part?
point that Colombia, Cali, Colombia.
Okay.
So
Nice.
it's fun because you start setting some milestones along the way, and my milestones were that when my business is run by themselves, when I'm financially free, when my kids are homeschooled, now we take that move and we travel the world and we explore different cultures, but at the same time continue living that legacy, continue doing the things that we love to do.
I love, first off, one lesson for everyone out there. You've got multiple income streams. But you know what? I've never heard anyone segment them and describe them the way you just did. And so, in terms of, you had your passive, your give back, you had your cash flow part, and then your wealth creation
Yes.
uh, income as well. So, who taught you to think like this? Where'd you learn all this?
I couldn't tell you exactly who it was, but along my journey, I discovered that we always have to constantly continue improving with time and not only changing with time, right? And part of that improvement is always being surrounded by people that are smarter than you
Yep.
and having the right mentors and investing into those mentors because as entrepreneurs a lot of people want to invest in so many things out there but the last thing that they invest is in their self-growth in growing themselves in reading books in hiring mentors, not only mentors for business but mentors for life, for relationships, for how to be a good father, for a better relationship with God and everything else. So along the way, along my journey of that, I kind of discover, and also while meditating and talking to God. And I'll tell you one of the reasons I realized that my give back was my calling to mentor people because when I sold my second company, no, I'm sorry, when I sold my first company, I told God, God, please help me sell this company. I'm going to put it on the market, and I promise that I'm going to give 10% of the whatever the company sells for to charity and to the church. And of course, within 30 days, we had a contract on the company. We had like
Nice.
4 offers. We picked the best offers. We sold the company. And I did what I promised I was going to do. I gave my tithes and I wasn't fulfilled. I didn't feel like happy. Like there was something in me that I'm like, my God, what's going on? Like I did what I said I was going to do. You did what you said you were going to do. And I don't feel like fulfilled. What's going on? And then in a dream, it came to me. It's like, because if you give money to somebody, they're going to spend it and that money is gone. So what you have to do is you have to teach them how to fish so they can eat for the rest of their lives. So that came to me that I need to teach people how to become successful, that I've been blessed with this gift that every time I start a business, I'm able to grow a company, I'm able to scale it to millions, that I need to pass on that experience, that gift to other people so they could become successful. So that's kind of like how those me having those clarity into each one of my businesses mean to me came about.
I love your mindset. I sit here and I interview a lot of successful people, and one thing a lot of them all have in common is their investment in themselves, which you mentioned earlier. I took a recent trip down to Costa Rica, all self-development, uh, because I too went through a period of time where I was almost all my income became passive. I didn't need to be involved in any of my businesses to have them grow and be successful. Uh, and that's what I worked my whole life for. And then I got there and I was like, huh, this isn't so great. What the heck's going on? It wasn't fulfilling.
Right.
And so a lot of my journey down there was to discover that. And I came out of that. But, I was funny. I was talking to an extremely successful person. I just happened to be on the phone, and it was a business call while I was down there. And he asked me, hey, what are you doing in Costa Rica? And, not everybody's always open. You don't know how people go react to, well, I'm going to work on me some, right? I'm taking 2 weeks to, and I started telling him a little bit, and he goes, hey, stop. He goes, I get it. He goes, I've got a spiritual mentor. I got a marriage mentor. I've got a wealth mentor. He started going into all this, and I would have never guessed that about this person, right? But the most successful people, that is what they do. They work on themselves as much as they work on their businesses.
Yes, yes, and you have to. I mean, you have to because, um, and that's what kind of like pushes us and forces us to have that balance in life. Because as entrepreneurs, we want to grow these companies, we want to make them bigger, we want to make them successful, and we tend to forget about what everything else is important in our lives, like our family, our kids, our friends. And once we reach the top, we're lonely, we're not fulfilled. Why? Because we achieved
Yeah.
everything, but now we lost our wife, we lost our relationship, we lost our friends. So it's how do we have that balance in life? And there's some entrepreneurs, some very successful ones that they tell you, I'm like, there's no such a thing as having a balance in life. And I'm here to always say, you're wrong about that. Maybe there's no balance in life because all you think is about being extremely successful, but then you're missing out on what's important in life. And life is not only about making money and making hundreds of millions of dollars. And until last year, my goal was never to have a company that does hundreds of millions of dollars. My goal was always been to be financially free to be able to do anything that I want. And am I extremely successful? Yes, I'm able to have nice cars, live in a multi-million-dollar home, have my yacht that I dreamed of, be a pilot, like do all the things that I want to do. So not because once you get to a certain point, it's like how much do I want to keep going, right? How much do I want to keep going? But again, as time passes by and you realize, okay, now it's time for me to continue progressing, continue improving. Then those are the moments that you push and you work yourself a little bit harder, but you figure out how do I continue having that balance so everything that I have built on this side always stays there.
That's awesome. So you mentioned earlier one of the obstacles you had to overcome. You filed bankruptcy back in with the real estate
Yes.
crashing back in '07, '08 range. Um, and if you want to leave it to that one, that's fine. But what are some of the biggest obstacles that you have had to overcome? And then more importantly, how'd you overcome them?
I mean that's one of my biggest obstacles, and I always say that was
What?
one of my biggest blessings of all time as well. Just learning and knowing that once you made it, you could do it again, right? It's figuring out how do we get back on top and how do I not make the same mistakes again and learn from those mistakes. Because one of the things that I noticed that a lot of people continue going on the hamster wheel is because, yes, they continue making the same mistakes over and over again. And it's like, how do you set up yourself for success? Is that make sure that we learn from our mistakes. And that's exactly what I did. The reason I went bankrupt was for two reasons. Number one, I was extremely over leveraged. And number two, I was focused only on the money. I wasn't focusing on what I wanted to live, what my vision was. Now that I'm focused on my vision, I'm living my vision. Now that I know that I'm never going to over leverage myself, I'm not over leveraged now. So if we go into a recession, as we're entering this recession, I know that my debt to income is very little. Therefore, I'm never going to get in that situation again. And the third thing
Yeah.
that I learned is that I have to make sure that my businesses are recession proof. And my businesses are recession proof at this moment.
So you're taking a lesson learned, about 15 years ago and saying, and that's not happening to me again. That's awesome. It's amazing. I interview so many people on this show, and you are the second, literally in a row, the second person in a row that talked about almost like a personal vision or mission statement. you always hear about it for your businesses, right? Here's our business mission statement, our vision. Here's our plan or strategy, how we're going to get there. But that's one of the things that came out of Costa Rica for myself personally. And maybe it's just because I do it personally now, I pay more attention to and I recognize it now. But man, a lot of successful people, they have their own personal mission statement, their own vision for their person. It's almost like, I don't want to say it's just like their business, but it's kind of written. There's not too much of a difference. And you're
No.
right. When you focus on that, then the things that you do on your daily, your activities, your actions, if you're focusing on that, is it getting me closer? Is it taking me further away from that? Things become so much more clear.
Right. And to dive a little bit deeper in that, is like, for example, if your mission in your business is to get to $1 million, just for example, right? You're going to be focusing on the $1 million. But if your actual mission could be, you know what, my mission is to buy myself a 45-foot yacht so I could work out of that yacht 2 or 3 times during the week, then your mission becomes better because now you're more focused into like getting the money to get a yacht so you're able to work from there and do what you love versus just focusing on the money. Because once you get the money, you're like, okay, no, I don't want to spend it in the yacht because I want to continue growing my company, right? And then your life goal starts becoming further and further away. And to me, again, putting that example out there, I love it. And actually, I was going to go live today from my yacht with you because I had to go to my yacht today. But I'm like, okay, let me just stick around. Let me do a couple of things at the house. But that is the fun part about me, that those material things create amazing experiences. It's just spending time with the family, spending time with friends, um, bringing entrepreneurs into it and letting them know what it feels like to live that lifestyle.
So I was going to ask you how often you bring your podcast host down onto the yacht, but I've got a better idea. What we should do is I'm going to be starting another podcast here in a couple months. Um, we should come and do it live right on the yacht. That's what we should
Just
really
do
do.
it.
That's how I invite myself down. All right. So share a time when we've heard a lot about the successes and obviously, first off, I love your mentality and when you went through your struggles in 07 and 08 with the real estate, how you saw it as a blessing. But talk about when you failed in business and then what you learned in that experience and outside of the bankruptcy, because we've covered that.
Okay, what I learned in business.
That can't be the only
Oh no,
time.
there's been plenty of them. I mean, plenty of struggles,
Yeah.
failed relationships, thefts from business partners,
Yeah.
mistakes in businesses. Again, it's always a trial and error, right? Always continue learning and continue
Yeah.
improving, like I said. And I mean, I had so many failures, not only in that real estate market, but in business as well, right? I started a technology company a couple of years ago, right when COVID started, into the forex market, investing in that, and it was something new to me. It was something good, and I'm always a good business partner, and I always have a technical partner in the business. And as growing with my technical partner, we lost a couple of $1 million in that business. So it's a hard pill to swallow when you start losing that amount of money. But at the same time, I went back and I used my prior experience. Hey, did I lose over $20 million in the real estate market? I did. And what did I do? So now I just put it on God's hands. You know what, God, is this is your plan. This is up to you. I'm going to make sure that I don't continue making the same mistakes and learn from that. As far as business partners, my biggest thing with business partners in the past was that I just go out there, and because I like the person and I want to do business with them, I go and jump into business with them,
Mm-hmm.
and you know the relationships go south because once they start making money, people greed starts taking to them. So now the thing that I'm doing, I'm very keen on only working with people that share my faith, share my values. If you don't share my faith, you don't share my values, I don't care to do business with you. And it doesn't matter how much money you're promising me or how much money you're talking about, because again, money is not the ultimate goal. The ultimate goal is to make sure that I'm working with people that share my vision, that share my values, that share my faith. And it just kind of just gives it a step higher of the quality people that I'm working with. So I started to build my new team in the mentoring side strictly based on that. And the growth that I'm seeing, the people that I'm seeing, the people that I'm working with is 10 times better than everything else, just because it's aligned with what I believe in, is aligned with what I want in my life and the people that I want to be surrounded with. And so those are some lessons like that. As far as relationships, yes, on a personal side, I've been cheated plenty of times, bad relationships. So, well, one thing with my wife is that uh, coming from being raised by a single mom, not having a father figure around, I could say that I have all odds against me to be a good father, to be a good husband, and to me that has been a huge priority in my life to make sure that I maintain my marriage, and I'm very happy to tell you that we've been married for 12 years now. We just celebrated our 12-year anniversary, and
Nice.
it's always a struggle. Continue being there, going to therapy, learning more, trying to figure out. Because sometimes I get consumed in work, I get consumed in business, that I tend to forget, like I mentioned, about what do I need to do in my home, what do I need to do in my house to continue that marriage fruitful. And some of the things that I do is now I have weekly date nights with my wife. So every week is on the calendar. We go on a date. So make sure we have that, because at the end of the day, when my kids leave the house, it's going to be left just her and I. So I have to figure out that we have that relationship, we have that bond, and I always involve her in everything that I'm doing in my life, because I can tell you she's going to be my the person that criticizes me the best, the most, and for the good, and has my best interest more than anybody else out there, right? More than a mentor, more than anybody else. Sometimes the thing that happens to us is that we tend not to listen to them, because we tend not to listen to the people that we love. We tend to listen to outsiders. So
Yep.
it's just kind of like getting her perspective, and then listening to somebody else that gives me the same perspective. And then I tell her, oh, this is what they say. She's like, yeah, but that's what I told you. I'm like, okay, you were right. So we go from there. So those have been a lot of the lessons learned. Figuring
So,
out how to continue sustaining a business, right? Or what things are going wrong, and always improving on that. And I think it's always a constant learning battle as we go, as we continue going in business.
yeah. So on these date nights in Miami, what are your top two most common favorite things to do down there?
Movies and dinner.
Movies and dinner. All right, nice.
Movies and dinner.
Any favorite restaurant?
Oh, we have quite a few.
Yeah,
There's
I'd
quite a
say.
few of them. Yes, yes. There's always switching around, but good quality food, I will say. That's the one.
All right. So you may have already just answered this question, but I want to ask it anyways. Knowing what you know now, all right, if you could go back and start from day one in your business career, what would you do differently starting out?
Nothing. I and I've been asked this question a lot of times, and I always say I wouldn't change one thing, because if there was one thing that I go back and I change, it's going to alter the course of where I could be today, and I wouldn't be where I am today if there's one thing that I changed in my life, in my past, and I'm happy, and I don't want anything to change. I like it the way it has been.
All right. So we mentioned a little bit earlier work life balance, and you get a lot of that from different people, and I think there's different definitions out there for. So this is a two kind of part question. For one, what's that mean to you, and then more importantly, how do you maintain a work life balance?
Okay, so what does work life balance mean? To me, it means that it's having a balance and making sure that you have and allocate enough time for everything in your life, right? So everything works harmoniously. Um, uh, and how do I do that? How do I allocate that time? I make sure that I set boundaries. And there's some boundaries that, and to me, is setting those boundaries, right? Because I could come into the office and I could be here 8 hours a day. And sometimes I come here and I don't do anything, but I come in an hour and I'm so, uh, what's it called? What's the word? I can't remember the word right now.
Focused.
So efficient
Yep.
in an hour that I get to do everything that I could do in a whole day in just an hour or two. So I become very
Yeah.
efficient. But in order to have that work life balance, the one thing that I did is I set those boundaries. And to me, those boundaries is that my personal time, and I call it my personal time, is 9 to 5. So from 9 to 5, I get to do everything that I love, that I want, meaning work, go out on my yacht, meet with people, get on a podcast, talk to people. This is my free time, 9 to 5 every day. 5 p.m. comes my family time. From 5 until 8 o'clock at night is family time. And from 8 to 10 is my wife and I time, where we spend together. And then if I want to go back to work, if I want to do anything else, at 10 o'clock I could come back to my office and do other things for me. But pretty much it's having those boundaries that those times are set for me. Therefore, I don't work on the weekends. And if I do work on the weekends, I will make up that time sometime during the week or something like that. So make sure that I always give the same amount of time that I allocated for my family, for my wife, for my businesses.
Let me ask you a question. You mentioned there are times you're really efficient, you get a lot of stuff done in 1 or 2 hours. Did you ever go through a period? It sounds like you got this pretty under control now, but did you ever go through a period where if you weren't doing more, if you weren't there, did you feel guilty?
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes. And to tell you the truth, until now, sometimes I feel that way, right? Sometimes I feel that way because we have some goals that we want to hit, and sometimes those goals we know that they're going to take time. We know that they're going to be take 6 months, they're going to take a year,
Right.
and at times we feel frustrated. It's like, why are we hitting those goals? Because we haven't hit the timeline that we're set for us to hit, and but if I come back to my office and I put more time into it, it's not gonna make me closer to my thing. All is I'm gonna do is start killing myself and thinking myself what other things can I do to make that happen faster and to push that faster. Sometimes we just have to follow God's plan, right? God's plan is going to be when it's going to be, and we just have to trust and believe that we are going to get there. We are going to accomplish the things that we want, as long as we're doing everything that we need to do. So it's not so much about um, not spending a lot of time, but are we doing what we need to do? Did we accomplish the thing that we needed to accomplish in order to get to that goal, right? And those things that we need to accomplish could be done in a few hours versus 10 hours. And if we're
Yeah.
doing that, then I tell myself there's no reason for you to be guilty. You did what you needed to do.
It's why I feel like discipline and focus is so critical because without it, that 2 hours worth of work, that 8 hours worth of work that you were able to accomplish in two, it's easy to have that eight turn into 12 when
Yes.
you're when you're not focused and disciplined. What
Well,
what and listen, I know in the real estate game, networking, building relationships is critical, but talk a little bit about the importance or give some examples of how that's helped you. And more importantly, like what are some of your techniques to build strong relationships and to network?
right. One of the things that I always teach my employees, like in all my businesses, and especially when I used to have when I was in the retail side of business, I always used to tell all my employees, don't sell. We don't sell. We build
Yeah.
relationships, and it's all about building meaningful relationships, right? When you start really building relationships with people because you want to get to know that person, you like that person without having an alternative motive, uh, those relations become real. And then when they need something from you, when somebody knows that they need something, a service that you provide, you're the first person that they think of because you're not there trying to sell anything. And it has happened to me multiple times in life that as I continue going with my business, I just continue building those relationships and kind of surrounded around the right people. And sometimes people think that, oh, why should I build a relationship with this person? But this person doesn't have anything to offer. But the thing that you don't know is that maybe this person knows the right person that needs something from you. But also, this person maybe is not at the level that you want him to be. But give him 5, 6 years, that person is going to be a key element in your relationship arsenal.
Yeah. How, how often do you, I guess, how do you approach? I would imagine in your business, any business, but I feel like it's so easy to recognize it in your business. There's potential risk, especially if you're in development part, right? So how do you approach uh, risk taking with your
Okay.
businesses?
Risk taking. It's I always call is what is your risk tolerance, right? You have to know what your risk tolerance is. So based on everybody's risk tolerance is different. Are you comfortable with whatever project or whatever investment you're going to make? So on the real estate development side, my biggest risk is that if I don't buy the land right, then it's going to be harder for me to have the margins that I want to have in the future. And as you mentioned a minute ago, that in the past couple of years the real estate market was crazy. I really didn't buy anything in the past couple of years because everybody was buying, everybody was going crazy.
Yeah.
So I learned not to follow the herd. I learned to stay behind the herd. So when the herd falls, I'm able to go in there and take advantage of it. So I tend
Yeah.
to do things when not everybody's doing them. I tend to buy land when not everybody's buying land. I tend to buy properties when not everybody's buying property. I start building when not everybody's building. So like that, when the market changes, there's a huge demand for the products that I have out there in the market. And the same thing on the transportation side. On the transportation side, we're doing things different. We're finding the niche. And I would say, I'd rather be the big fish on a small pond versus the small fish in a huge pond. I focus on specific areas. I'm not like all over the place. And with as time has gone, I became very spoiled. So I don't build a project that is now within 10 to 15 minutes of where I live. When I was younger, I would drive an hour to do a project. Nowadays, stick to my surroundings, stick to the area that if a deal comes up, I could know off the top of my head. That's a great
All
deal.
right. Yeah. You've mentioned goals several times. How often are you checking your goal, where you're at with your goals and the progress you're making?
At least quarterly. As
Okay.
always, quarterly. Start checking quarterly. I have a team meeting, bi-weekly team meeting that with my team we check. We have a dashboard where we're going through metrics, looking at what they're doing, what they're supposed to be doing, what I'm supposed to be doing. Are we on track? Are we not on track? But then at the same time, my personal goals always like going back to my vision board. I'm looking at, okay, have we accomplished this? Have we accomplished that? What did I do? Why did I put this in this here? And just it was so funny that you mentioned this, that just last week in my bedroom, I looked in my bedroom and I'm like, where's my vision board? And my wife, she's like, I threw it away a month ago. I'm like, why'd you do that? I'm like, because you haven't updated it. I'm like, oh my God. So now I know that I need to update my vision board. So even that, like having our vision boards updated as a family, we have that because my kids do it. I do it. My wife does it. We all do it at the house.
So Michael Poro wants to know what type of transportation business you're in.
Michael, hey, how you doing? Thank you for your question. I'm into the refrigerated goods. So we transfer everything that has to do with produce, not frozen produce. And my niche is the Northeast of the United States.
Nice. So I look at your business career almost in two halves, right? You've got the first half where you had all the success, then you had the real estate bubble and the crash in '07 and 8, and then you came right back and did it again, probably even at a much higher level after that, right? So first
Yes.
half, second half. I'm curious, how long did it take you to find success? I want to know, how long did it take you to find success in the first half, and then when you had to start over again in the second half, how long did it take you?
Um, wow, great question. And it's very funny because you always hear the saying, right? You have to be the right person at the right time. And the
Yeah,
one thing that I learned with time is that you have to be the right person at the right place at the right time. And I've been fortunate enough to be that person, right? So when I left the Marine Corps, I left the Marine Corps in 2002, and I started real estate development in 2002, and that's when the real estate market started to climb, started to go up, and I was the right person at the right place at the right time. It took me 2 years to become successful, to get to the millions. The first time around, it took
yeah.
me less than 5 years to get to over 20 millions of dollars in revenues, and it took me a little bit of time to go bankrupt, right? Because I didn't know how the world worked. And when I went bankrupt at the end of 2007, it took me a few months um, to kick myself in the butt, to make sure I tell myself I'm not a loser, that I could do it again, and to change my mindset. And the moment that I did that, an opportunity came my way. And again, I was the right person at the right place at the right time. I was able to raise $300,000 to get into the gold buying business. And when I got into the gold buying business, within 2 years, I was back on top again, making millions, working 5 hours per week, living my amazing life. I also live life to the fullest, like I call it, working 5 hours per week, having stores, making millions of dollars, just money coming in like crazy. At a very young age, I was able to get back on top and live from there on for many, many years, a cash free lifestyle, all about cash, no debt whatsoever. Until it got to the point that cash could only take you so far. So then I needed to go back into
Yeah.
retrain my mindset and tell myself that it's okay to have debt as long as you're never over leverage again.
I sit here and I listen to you, and I think you have an incredible story. I love it. And
Thank you.
you've said right place, right person, right time. You and I both know there are no coincidences, buddy. That is God putting people in your life at the right time and at the right place, and you in their lives at the right time and the right place for a reason. And
Yes, sir.
what's great about you is you recognize that because you're aware you're here. It isn't all about you, right? You're here for a
Yes,
purpose and a reason, and I it's easier to recognize that, I guess, when you're paying attention to it.
yes. Thank you.
Yeah. What what's next for you? What are you gonna do now?
Well, next is the big change in life, which is going to South America, living there for a couple of years with a family, get to experience a new culture, get to travel
That's right.
throughout Colombia, throughout South America with the family. Again, my plan A was always to, when the time was right, when my kids were there, homeschooling, when I'm able to run all my businesses remotely, I was going to move to South America, to another country, and live there for a couple of years. And the time has come, right? And all the pieces
Yeah.
align. Not when I wanted to, but when God wanted to. The same thing into the public speaking side. I really wanted to do public speaking, but and I went to and I learned that back in 2014, but I wasn't ready for it because I did not want to travel the world and speak on stages by myself. I wanted to make sure my family comes along with me because I'm very huge into family. And now is the time. The time has come. Last year, I was fortunate enough to speak in London at an event in London, and I was able to go with my whole family to speaking events. And now I have the opportunity to continue doing this. So what's next? The next part is, just continue living my life, continue impacting as many lives as I can, continue teaching people how to become successful, travel the world, inspire as many people as I can, and be there for my family, be present, and raise and be the best role model, the best father figure, the best male figure for my two daughters.
So you've got a I will say a very engaging Facebook group, right? I'm gonna put it up on the screen
Yes,
here. So if you guys are watching this, I'm gonna put it on the bottom here, scrolling there. Startup to millions, correct?
yes, sir. Start up to millions.
So I want to make sure people go join that group. Can anybody join it?
Anybody, it's a free Facebook group. If you want to join it, go ahead and there. Like-minded individuals, faith-based entrepreneurs. If you have any questions about entrepreneurship, about business growing, business scale, go ahead and ask it there. Put it there. My mentor always says, "Become an asshole." Right? If you don't ask, you're never gonna get an answer. So become one of those. And
Yeah.
I love that.
So let me ask you, when it comes to succeeding in life and in business, is there anything we haven't covered yet that you feel like we can't leave this show without talking about this?
I think the last thing, and I always like to leave people with this, is that um, if you don't know where you're going, you will eventually get there. So let
If
that
wait,
sink in for a little bit.
say that again.
If you don't know where you're going, you will eventually get there.
Okay. All right. Well, if you do know where you're going, do you get there faster?
Of course. And that's the part of having that plan, right? That
Yeah.
knowing what is it that you want in your life so you could get there. Because if you don't know where you're going, you're eventually going to get there. You just keep going through life to get to where you think where you're supposed to be or where you're supposed to get. But that's why, we need to have that clarity in our lives of what do we want? What do we want in our lives in order for us to get there?
Yeah. This has been an absolute pleasure having you on. That is a wrap for the latest episode of Move Crush Count with Edwin Carrion. We hope you enjoyed this deep dive. I mean, great stories in terms of and made it very obvious in terms of. I don't think anybody that's either listening or watching this can walk away and say this guy does not live what he preaches. You are living life to the fullest, very successful in business. More importantly, I hope people, if there's anything that people get out of this, for me with you, it starts with your mindset, man. I mean, it just screams off the page in terms of you've got the right mindset and your priorities are just so locked in. And I absolutely have enjoyed this conversation. So I want you guys to follow, if you're watching, the link for Facebook is Startup to Millions Facebook group. Go join that. start learning from experts like Edwin today. And it's because it's not just about how much money you make. If you can't enjoy the process and enjoy and have fun along the way, like he said, it's not going to be a very fulfilling life. So I think you can have it all. And he's a good person to listen to and a good example of how you can. So thank you very much for participating and helping the MCC audience today.
Well, thank you for having me again, and have a blessed day. Thank you for everything.
Yes. And if you guys enjoyed this episode, please follow us on movecrushcount.com. Subscribe. You can also subscribe to us on YouTube. We've got a Facebook group as well. We asked you to join that. And then anytime you can catch our live streams, whether it's on Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, or YouTube, do that so you can stay connected with the community. And a special thanks to our sponsor, J&L Marketing, the digital and direct marketing agency that helps you outsmart your competition so you don't have to outspend them. Visit jnlmarketing.com today so you can learn how to move the crowd, crush the competition, and count the money. Thank you, everyone. We'll see you on the next episode. Thanks, Edwin.